Today we're going to talk about handstands. If any of you have ever tried a handstand, you know how hard they are. So what we want to go through today is some good progressions to get you to a point of doing a good, stable handstand in the best position possible. So generally what we start with, our first option is going to be a pike hold on a box. You can do this on a wall as well, but generally we like to start on the box. So Kristen's going to walk through one, and then I'll talk about a couple components of it. Awesome. Go ahead and walk back down. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. The position that we want you to get into to start is basically a straight arm plank with your feet on the box. So go ahead and get in that position. Now once you're there, what we're looking for is nice tight abs, elbows stay locked out the whole time. What Kristen's gonna do, making sure her feet don't move, is basically walk her hands back, pushing her hips up in the air. Now if you happen to have tight hamstrings, that's gonna be the limiting factor. The goal that we're trying to get to though is wrists, elbows, shoulders, hips, all in a straight line or as close to that as possible. Some extra hamstring stretching might be necessary to get you closer to that position. Once you're there, we want to make sure that you start to accumulate some time in that position, really paying attention to how your wrists feel. In the beginning, go by feel, see how long you can go, but don't push it beyond reason. Once you're there, you start to feel tired, make sure you have enough energy to walk your hands back out to safely get off the box. And that's our first option for handstands. Next up is our second option for the handstand, and that's a wall walk. So Kristen's going to demo a wall walk, and then we're going to talk about a couple of options when you're doing it, because we don't expect that right off the bat you're going to be able to do the full thing, getting all the way up against the wall. Awesome. So a couple of things to notice about that. One was her midline position. She never let her back get into extension. She was being really active in her abs, staying as hollow as possible the whole way up. Also, being very active, pushing out through her arms, keeping her arms as straight as possible, and being very active, pushing through the shoulders and the traps. Now, she went all the way up to the wall to something that is next on our progression list called a nose to toes handstand hold. It's pretty challenging to get all the way up, so what we generally start with is working up to one where you're maybe getting up at 45 degrees or something in there, basically going to where you feel comfortable and still saving enough energy to get back down safely. Now, if she were to go not all the way up to the wall, the shoulder position, she's still trying to get as stacked up as possible, just like what we did on the box. Wrist, elbow, shoulder, hip, basically in a straight line. You could even do that if you were out a little bit farther away from the wall. The big thing is that making sure you have enough energy to get up there stable and then come back down without crashing. Now, a couple of ways that you could spice this up. Go up, try and hold for a few seconds, then come back down, working on that time where you're staying up there just to get a little bit more time under tension. Be very cognizant though of your midline position and your shoulder position. Those are two big priorities. Also, neutral head position. We want to keep that basically a straight line all the way from the top of the head down through the hips. Next up is our wall facing hold. Now we've already gone over the wall walk, which is essentially what you're going to do to get to this position, but what we want to really pay attention to in this case is how close to the wall she's getting and her position. So like I said, nose to toes hold. She's going to show us what that looks like. All right, now when she's up here, she's basically getting as close to the wall as she can. Nose and toes are the only thing touching, so notice this really nice hollow position that she's maintaining, being extremely active basically through every muscle in her body. Up and down, we still want you to be really paying attention to your midline position, just like we did for the wall walks. This is a good opportunity to keep engaged all the way up and down. Go ahead and come down. Again, this is something that you want to work on, increasing the time that you're able to hold, but of course, keep in mind that while you're up there, it's always good to make sure that you have enough energy to get back down safely. Our next progression for the handstand is doing a regular old jump up to a handstand. Back's going to be facing the wall. So the reason that we want to do this after you get really good at doing a wall facing hold is because it's really easy in this position to rely on the wall too much. You're basically too far out from the wall. You have a big arched body position. It's really important that you take your time to master the wall facing hold before you go to this option, just because it's too easy to train your body in the incorrect position. So Kristen's going to show us a jump up to a handstand against the wall. We're going to take note of her midline position again, because it should be exactly like her wall facing hold. Awesome. So notice hollow body position, all of her joints are stacked up, neutral head position, fingers are very, very close to the wall. That's going to be one big thing that's key, because if her hands are too far out from the wall, the only option to use the wall for any stability is to have a really big arch in her body, and that's definitely not what we want. Next on the list for our handstand progressions is going to be wall-supported shoulder taps. So Kristen's going to show us a couple of those, and then I'll explain some really key points. Notice while she's doing this, the weight transferring that's happening. That was great. So one of the most crucial factors of this is that your body position should be exactly the same as it is in all the other handstand progressions. What we're looking for is those nice stacked up joints, really paying attention to the hollow body position. Now what she's doing to make this happen is that she's trying to shift all of her weight over into the hand that she's supporting her on before she tries to lift her hand up. Now when you're starting to do these, you might find that when you pull your hand up off the floor, it feels like you're going to fall to that side. That's just indicating that you haven't gotten enough weight over onto that hand that you're supporting yourself with. So the biggest thing you can do is not maybe shooting for starting to get your hands all the way off the ground, but just working for getting a very good supported position and then seeing if you're able to feel that weight lift up off your hand, because that indicates that you're getting enough weight onto the supporting arm. Go slow with these, take your time, make sure that you're not changing your body position from any of the other handstand progressions that we've hit so far. So next on the progression is the freestanding handstand. So once you've mastered the shoulder taps against the wall, it's good to start getting out on the floor to practice this. It's very straightforward. What we're looking for is the most stacked up position that you can get. All the joints are stacked up, maintaining a complete hollow body position. What you're shooting for is feeling it in your forearms and your traps. If you're feeling it in your traps and forearms, that's a really good indication that you're getting as much control as you can from your forearms. So the idea is that your body is completely neutral and you're so rigid that any amount that you move with your wrists, that's going to end up moving your feet. So once you've mastered the freestanding handstand, the next progression is the handstand walking. The reason that we want you to do it in that order is that it's too easy to use the movement while you're walking to compensate for a bad position. So master the still handstand in a nice stacked up position, start walking, but make sure that that position doesn't change at all. So the last on the list is the freestanding shoulder taps. Now, compared to a handstand walk, this is a lot more difficult just because you're adding in some movement, but you're trying to keep your body position as straight as possible. We've said this over and over again, but as with all of the handstand progressions, the positions should be exactly the same. So when you're moving around here, we should still be able to see that all of your joints are stacked up, you're in a perfect hollow body position, you're able to control your movement as far as lifting your hands up and down without falling to one side or stumbling all the way over. Take your time, make sure that the position is the priority and not how difficult the skill is. We want you to focus on mastering each one before you move on to the next.